Third time's a fucking charm, Jesus. So anyways, I've been trying to get this video like 10 times. Book list, okay? So book list. People have asked me for a book list. Why do I recommend, why am I putting this out? Why do I think this is actually worthy of your time? Is because if I had one suggestion for people and my younger self, it would be read books. Because again, if you look around, part of my routine is I go out and after work, I go and I sit in the park and I read and I write and, in the park, I take a look around. I go to, Bryant Park or Herald Square or someplace in the city where there's a lot of people. And most of what, I see, not that there's, look, people are going to do what they're going to do, but if you act like most people, you're going to get average results. If you want to be, one of the more successful people in life, you should emulate and model what they do. And what they do is they read really quality books with quality writing written by highly successful people who have achieved highly. And there's something, it's not something, there's a very good reason why mastering language is incredibly important. And reading language and distinctions and principles from amazing, intelligent, successful men and women is so, so important. Essentially what books are to me is like taking somebody else's best thoughts, like a highly successful person's best thoughts, and implanting them in my brain. And I do a couple different things when I read a book. When I read a book, I underline and I also rewrite some of the passages or the sentences that are really, really important to me. And by doing that, what it does is it implants it deeper in your mind. There's something about writing out either transcribing what somebody has verbally said to you or rewriting sentences out in a book that just implants it deeper in your head versus just sitting there and reading it passively. This is something that Anthony Robbins has talked about, but also is common thread in all the self-development books. We learn by actually moving our bodies and engaging our feelings and our emotions with what we read and what we see. Just intellectually understanding something is not really nearly as powerful to the subconscious mind as actually rewriting it or feeling it and experiencing it. When we feel it and experience it, it goes deeper into our psyche, and we can actually utilize those things and we actually follow through with them. Many, many people who read and they watch videos and stuff, they intellectually understand things, but they don't actually utilize it. And knowledge, that's just intellectual is not really going to get you anywhere, but knowledge that you apply, that allows you to make huge, huge gains and distinctions, and you learn from other people's mistakes rather than just being trial and error. And that is really one of the biggest reasons why reading is so, so important. So I'm not here to talk about, all that. I'll go more into that a little bit later. And by the way, I also have this event coming up on August 2nd, this coming Thursday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., Ripley Greer Studios in Manhattan. It's called Tribal Leadership. It's all about being true to yourself. I'll be hosting it. There's multi-millionaires that'll be in attendance, speaking. It's going to be awesome. So you're more than welcome to come. But some books that I'm reading. Okay, so just off the top of my head, there's a great book, Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Willink. It's like a morning pages thing for me. And what it is Jocko Willink is like this Navy SEAL commander. He designed the SEAL training, which is the toughest military training in the world. And, the things that he's done is just unbelievable for this country. But what it is it's just simple, little, easy, digestible pages to fire you up in the morning. There's also workout routines. It's an awesome book. Discipline Equals Freedom, a field manual. It's not like real deep stuff, but it's great. I'm also reading his book, Extreme Ownership, which is about leadership, and it's about how to be decisive in uncertain situations. And there's nothing more uncertain than combat. Apparently, not that I've been, but it's pretty damn uncertain. And then you apply that to life and business, which also has a huge degree of uncertainty. But when you're in combat and you're responsible for life and death situations, you have to be really good at leading men and women and everything. And so that book is awesome. I'm reading that now. I'm working my way through that. Think and Grow Rich. It's easy to take that book for granted because it's like the self-improvement thing. Everybody says like, oh, it's the self-improvement Bible. So I think at least for me, I kind of said, that's not something I'm so into because everybody's read it. Dude, that book is amazing. That book is truly one of the best books of all time. I'm working through it now. It's dense. The writing is a little bit, the language is very, very dense, and the verbiage and the word choice that he uses, I find myself looking up a lot of words, so I work through it slower, but it is an amazing book. It might be a book that you read a little bit later once you get more into reading, but it is truly an amazing book. Anthony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within. I also just recommend doing Anthony Robbins audiobooks. He has this concept called net time, no extra time, where you just plug in, the audiobook and you let it play. I actually even did this thing last night, and I do it sometimes where literally, I'll just leave it playing while I'm going to sleep, and I literally woke up thinking the incantations and thinking the thoughts that he implanted in my mind, because again, the subconscious mind is most receptive when the conscious mind is kind of not fully there. So that is in the morning and before you go to sleep. And if you implant the good ideas from Anthony Robbins, or a good book, or asking yourself some quality questions in the morning and before you go to bed. So for instance, if you write out your to-do list or something before you go to bed, and then in the morning, your subconscious will constantly be thinking of solutions on how to get to the outcome or solve the problem or whatever during the day, versus if you just kind of haphazardly start your day, or you finish the day with whatever, you kind of leave it to chance, versus if you play something quality that's going to put some good ideas in your head, your subconscious mind will be digesting it and integrating it over the course of the evening. And I did it last night, and I feel amazing right now. And plus, I've been doing that for a long time. But back to the book. Sorry, the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Amazing book. That book might be the first book that I'd recommend to people who are creative types or entrepreneurs, business people. Highly recommend that book, because it's about the writing is so amazing, and it's such an easy book to read. You can read that book in honestly about 2 hours. It's such an amazing book, and it really is not only motivational and inspirational, but also it just cuts through the shit, man. It cuts through what are you here to do? What's your purpose here? Why are you not doing it? And it just removes all of the excuses for not doing what it is that that you really want to do. And I love that fucking book, man. That's such a beautifully written book and so profound, totally life-changing. All these books are life-changing, but that book, really special place in my heart. The Power of Now, I haven't read that in a long time, but it's a great book. I'll probably reread it again. David Data, Way of the Superior Man. All of David Data's books. I love his writing, because what it is it taps into the universal truth, the superconscious or whatever, where he speaks, and his writing, every word just rings with this truth, to where anybody at any, if you translate it in a different language, we all could relate to the things that he's saying, even though it's kind of abstract. And he's talking about sex, he's talking about polarity, masculine, feminine polarity. He's talking about your mission in life. He's talking about your truth, and just all this stuff. Really recommend that book, Way of the Superior Man, Blue Truth, Enlightened Sex Manual. They're all great books. They're very easy reads. Definitely recommend them. Unleash the Power Within, Tony Robbins, Unshakables on my desk, although I haven't really read through it too much. Money Master the Game, an amazing book. I kind of read a couple pages of it, haven't dug in too deeply, but what that book is Tony Robbins literally interviews the world's best money managers, people that are the best of the best in money. The Ray Dalios, the fucking all these people that are amazing with money, and they made literally the billionaires. I mean, the people who made inconceivable amounts of money, to me at least. And he finds out their mindset, and he talks about it, and their strategies and everything in there. It's awesome. In terms of business, the 4-Hour Work Week. Oh God, that book changed my life. I actually listened to that book a long time ago, along with The Millionaire Fastlane. I'd say those two books and this blog called Bold and Determined, Victor Pride. I would say that those three were really the genesis of motivating me to do what it is that I do now, where, essentially with the 4-Hour Work Week, Bold and Determined, they're pretty much talking about, it's look, man, The point of having business is not to have a business. The point of $1 million is not to have $1 million. The point of having that money and having that business is so that it can be a muse, as Tim Ferriss talks about, so that you can live a life that you want, so that you can go have adventure. You know, most people, what Tim Ferriss asserts in that book is that most people, it's not that they're depressed, it's not that they have ADD, it's just that they're fucking bored. You know, it's just that their life is so boring and mundane. And, you know, entrepreneurs, business owners, like, it's just, you know, they're doing this for significance because they believe that if they made this successful business, you know, they'd be recognized and they make a lot of money and they make an impact, and because of that they'd be loved, so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that that's not really what ultimately you want. That's not ultimately the outcome of making that money. The outcome of making that money, to a degree, is to fill yourself up and have great experiences. And you can't do that if you're always stressing about, you know, serving your clients, serving your partners. So he talks about, you know, kind of removing yourself and systematizing your business, which is so inspirational. Very simple to understand, hard to execute, much like life. Gosh, man, there's so many great books. I'd recommend The Bulletproof Diet. I haven't read that book, but I've listened to a lot of Dave Asprey's theories. It's kind of in line with Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body, but there's certain things in the 4-Hour Body and Tim's philosophy I don't necessarily agree with. Like Tim, he'll talk about keto and, you know, the slow carb diet, which is just kind of a seduction for the average American who eats at McDonald's, which is basically like 1 day a week you can eat whatever the fuck you want all day, like Snickers bars, ice cream. And for me, I don't think that that's a good idea. I think following the bulletproof diet is a way better idea, although I don't, you know, do bulletproof coffee, I don't do any of that stuff. What I do is I subscribe to the idea that, hey, certain foods are going to make you feel good because they work with the body biochemically. Certain foods, because of how they're grown or the way that they're produced and the fat content, the way that it's distributed, like grain-fed cows, for instance, their fat is high in omega-6, or it's all messed up. The monounsaturated fats are bad in there. They're not good for you. Versus grass-fed, pasture-raised, humanely killed, you know, by the way, that actually apparently is important, because it kind of makes sense. Like, if you treat these cows like absolute shit and then you slaughter them in awful fucking ways that are not humane, you know, it actually does make a difference. I'm sure they shoot cortisol through their body, and then you're eating the meat that has all this, the hormones in it. It's been actually scientifically studied that epigenetics are very real. So, you know, if you eat humanely killed grass-fed beef, it's probably a whole hell of a lot better for you. I know that I feel a whole hell of a lot better since, you know, essentially eating, you know, grass-fed beef. I have grass-fed butter. I don't use it too much. Caprolitic acid. All the bulletproof products are actually fucking awesome. The collagen protein bars, I don't have them that much, but if I was to eat protein bars, which, by the way, don't eat Quest bars. Oh my God, they bloat. Like, if you're sensitive to food like me, you will bloat like a motherfucker on Quest bars. Like, it's insane. And I look like shit, I feel like shit after I eat. I can eat like maybe a half a Quest bar, but like eating 1 or 2 or 3 like I tend to do is bad news. So better off fasting at that point. What else, man? I love books. You know, I'm going to be honest with you guys. For the past few months, I've just been just diving so deep into books. I love it. You know, books are the best. It's a way to skip ahead in life. Do yourself a favor. What I usually do is I'll go to Barnes & Noble. I'll just pick up anything. Oh shit, I have one I absolutely have to recommend you. One of the best books ever. Goals by Brian Tracy, I'll talk about in a second. I'll pick out like 8 books, and I'll just flip through the books, and I'll read like a few pages of each book, maybe like 20 pages, 30 pages, just, you know, flip around, see which one kind of grabs me, see if there's some ideas, and then I'll buy like 2 or 3 of them. They're literally like $7, $8, $9, $10 per book, and these books are gonna save you like so much pain. But there's a law, which if you've read Napoleon Hill, the book I just said, Think and Grow Rich, it's we only value what we pay for. So the reason that human beings don't value, for instance, like public libraries or public education is because it's free. We tend to value what we pay for, and we pay attention. So books are cheap, and people don't value them. You know what I'm saying? Even though all the best information is in there from literally, like, you know, Think and Grow Rich, he talks about how J.P. Morgan, Dale Carnegie actually created this steel firmament, as they called it, and it was a $600 million deal in the middle of the Depression. How what was it? Carnegie bought the steel from Morgan or whatever the fuck. I'm forgetting. I'm mixing up the names, but he talks about how he persuaded and influenced him to sell him his company, and he sold it to him. The last thing he said is, "I wish I asked for $100 million more." And Carnegie, the guy who bought it or whatever, the persuasive one, he said, "I would have given it to you had you just asked." And it was just, it's amazing. It's an amazing book. It's such a good book, all about mindset, and gives you, the power to really follow through and make your dreams come true. And anybody that's struggling, man, like anybody that wants more in their life, they know that they're not fulfilling their purpose. Like we all, that's the human condition. We all have that gnawing anxiety that we're not doing or being our full potential. That's an amazing book. The last book I'm going to talk about really quick, because this is getting a bit long, is Goals by Brian Tracy. Wow, that book is so profound. That is a full book that pretty much forces you to think about, your finances, your relationships, your body, your, what you want in life. Because the key overarching principle of goal setting, and what Anthony Robbins talks about with rapid planning method, and Brian Tracy talks about with goal setting and all this stuff, is that it's like when you're driving a car. If you focus on the divider, and you spin out, like when you spin, like say you hit a patch of black ice, the best drivers in the world will tell you, do not focus on the tree that you are steering into, or where you are veering off the road. Focus on centering the car, because if you focus on the tree, you're going to steer right into it. But if you focus on the road, you're going to correct course, because that's the way the mind works. That's the way the brain and the subconscious work. The subconscious mind is, if you ask it and direct it with correct questions, you'll be able to recenter yourself and orient yourself towards your goal versus what you don't want. Most people, they focus on what they don't want and they wind up steering right into it. So that's what that book is about. And again, there's so much cross-pollination between all these guys. They all say the same things because success leaves clues, And also, in addition to this, if you transcribe or you write out or you really absorb the writing in this, you'll become a much better communicator. If you really genuinely read and absorb, and you're just like become this sponge, if you listen to the way that I speak now versus the way that I spoke, maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago, it's kind of night and day. And that's because I really started getting serious about the discipline of reading every day quite a bit and writing quite a bit. So I'll make probably another video. I'm actually really pumped to be doing this channel again. I love making these videos. I clearly love speaking. I just can't seem to get away from it. And since they shut down my channel, definitely kind of blew, because 3 years of content just went right down the drain. So that's pretty much it, guys. I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you later.